usually when the Seawolves baseball team schedules a non-conference setup for leading up to the America East, it is a tune-up in the most tune-upable way. In other words, Matt Senk will try to schedule teams that he thinks are better than the Seawolves and some that he thinks the Seawolves have a better chance of beating, but he tries to make it tough for them because he feels that that is the best way to prepare for the conference schedule, which up until now mattered most. Well, we go to this schedule and we find that the Seawolves went down south once again. And they did, of course, get a home opener in, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But they dropped 2 out of 3 at McNeese State and down Louisiana, got swept by South Florida in Tampa, lost 9-6 against Sacred Heart at home, and then they go down to Western Carolina and take 2 out of 3 and should have swept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was, I think, the most interesting part, because going in, the baseball team really wasn't looking all that hot. Outside a couple players, you definitely tell that they were still a big work in progress.
They lost 5 in a row.
Exactly. And I thought that Friday game was shocking because Stony Brook was trailing 4-1 through most of that contest. And it wasn't till the 7th inning where the Seals put 4 on the board and were able to, get enough to get the victory. Stan Leutner in that game hit a 2-run double, giving the team 4-3 lead, with Shane Paradine, who had an excellent weekend, adding that insurance run in the 8th, right after Leutner's double to drive him in. And that was big. And then you go to today's game where they won 3-2. It was really more dominant performance from the pitching side, where Stony Brook, they relied on Joshua O'Neal, Brendan Patterman. Combined, they only gave up 1 hit, including retiring 14 of the last 15 batters they faced.
Well, the other thing, too, I think that I'm glad you brought up the pitching because it's the bullpen in particular that I think had the most need to catch up.
Agreed.
Because they're getting good starting pitching. But at this early stage of the game, Matt Senk has been limiting his guys to 5 innings. So the bullpen has been critical. And in that opener, for example, Ben Farrow went 5. And he gave up 3 runs on 2 hits and walked the man and struck out 3, 70 pitches. And then Brendan Patterman came in, got the win, went 2, and then Jack Carr saved it with a 2-inning save. And, I mean, these guys got some work, okay, as relievers. Patterman pitched through 27 pitches and Carr through 39. So, but on the flip side, Western Carolina, they stick a guy out there. He goes into the 7th inning with 117 pitches.
It was crazy, yeah.
I mean, talk about different philosophies here. I mean, I think that this philosophy, at least with the Seawolves, is that they're trying to ramp up the starters early on in the season. And, of course, the weather has not always been favorable. But you go down south, it's been pretty decent. But the Sacred Heart game certainly wasn't.
Yeah, you got to tip your hat off, too, to Zebby Matthews, who, as you said, went 6 2/3, 117 pitches. He got 10 strikeouts, even though he did give up all 5 runs. He was responsible for giving up all 5 runs. But he, as I said, 10 strikeouts is, nothing to scoff at, and did a good job, I think, inducing Seagulls to grounding out as well as striking out. They struggled for a long time up till that 7th inning to get Matthews uncomfortable.
Now, the Sacred Heart game, always got to remember, being a midweek game, you're not running your top 3 out there. So Jack Kramer got the nod, went 3 innings, and got beat up pretty good. 3 innings, 6 hits, 5 runs, all of them earned, 4 walks. So
his best.
Explains everything. Because after him, however, wrong side. That was on the Sacred Heart side. That was the Seawolves had the most success against him because Luke Hansen and Charlie Costello and David Offiero were able to shut him down. Now, on the flip side, Shane Helmstedt got the nod for the Seawolves, and he got tagged pretty good. 7 runs on 5 hits. And just taking a look at the error. I'm taking a look at the overall. There we go. Yeah, only 1 Stony Brook error. But 5 of those were earned. So... Mm-hmm. There was a fielding issue. But Andrew Ledbetter went 1 inning and gave up a pair, and Kyle Johnson went in and he gave up a pair. So the Seawolves did manage to come back and make it close, but once again, the bullpen couldn't hold it, and there you go. So
Yeah, the pitching got rocked against Sacred Heart. I mean, losing 9-6, that's going to be a factor. Why? Obviously, as you said, Helmstead, he just left too much over the heart of the plate. Is really what it is. He faced 16 batters the entire game, and 7 of them end up getting on base. 9 of them, because he gave him 7 hits and 2 walks. So you're pitching from the stretch the majority of the time, which is already issue number one. You're also dealing with having to worry about a man or two. Usually, it was 2 guys on base, and trying to focus on the batter, and especially this early in the season, it's just not happening against a Sacred Heart team that loves to move around the bases. And yeah, as you said, he got tagged pretty hard, gave up or was responsible for 5 runs on his slate. And then the relief after the Evan Fox grand slam. He had the biggest swing of the day, getting the Seawolves back in the game, getting them
tied it.
He had tied it at 5 with his grand slam in the bottom of the 4th inning. But as you said, Ledbetter comes in and it gives up a pair of runs, and then Johnson afterwards also
that
gave
was
up a
off
pair of
Hansen
runs.
then in the 4th inning, because what happened was, I guess Kramer was pulled with bases loaded, and Hansen gave up the home run.
Yeah, but that doesn't go on his record. That goes on Kramer's.
Right, but Kramer threw 69 pitches in 3 innings, so he got beat up pretty good. You compare and contrast, but 70 should be able to take you at least into the 5th normally.
And again, to me, it was a game that Stony Brook really should have closed the door on, because you had, as I said, great hit from Evan Fox, drove in 4 RBIs on the day, pair of runs. Matt Brown Arian also had a pretty good day, had a pair of runs on his slate, win 3 for 4. He got the Seals a 6-5 lead at one point, an inning or 2 later, but it just wasn't enough. As I said, the bullpen needed some work, and the series they had against Western Carolina, I thought, helped them out. Of course, Saturday, their loss in that series, they struggled there. And that was a high-scoring game to begin with, because Seals had an 8-7 lead heading in the bottom of the 9th. But Adam Kuzmicki had to play hero, because I forget who the batter was, but that ball was going out the fence. And he made a great stop over the wall, robbing it, and just turning it into a sacrifice fly that pushed it to extra innings.
Okay, so what's coming up for the Stony Brook Seawolves, as we keep telling everybody, we do have another game at Joe Nathan Field, and another interesting twist to this year's schedule is that at least they're sneaking in some home games in between Southern trips. Because, of course, the Southern trips are weekend trips, and they will go back and take classes, so we get to see them. And we get to broadcast them. We get to see what their progress is firsthand. So that will be March 8th, and it's been going back and forth on the start times. You'll see on WUSB.FM/sports. I haven't had a chance to change it yet, but it is indeed 2 p.m. first pitch, 1:45, I believe, will be going on, and we're going to be bringing that game to you. And I was looking for the history.
Well,
with LIU, and there isn't any. LIU Brooklyn, I believe, is a team that they had been playing. They actually have a record against them, but I don't believe they faced the LIU CW Post yet.
Yeah, exactly. This is LIU, the Sharks now, leveling up to D1. This is the first time we're going to see LIU and Stony Brook
it's also weird because their colors, everything's so different about them.
Oh, yeah,
because they were the Post Pioneers, and their main color was green, if I recall correctly, and we played them in football when we were both at D3 football programs. And I remember doing a game with Adam Walski 30 years ago at Hickox Field, which is no more. They've improved their facilities, and they've, it's like night and day. I have to sneak over there to Old Brookville, and again, if we ever do a game there, it's well within our range to do so. It's not far from me. And matter of fact, Tillis Center is actually where Chaminade holds its graduations because it has more capacity. So Tillis Center is on the LIU Post campus. And we used to call it CW Post, too.
Yeah, exactly. CW Post, remember that. But I think part of the rebranding is, as I said, besides obviously going in D1, is just, I think, just to change, a character change, the rebranding, just getting a new identity and, a new sense of themselves. And you see it, I think, in this baseball team. They're on a bit of a roll, winning back-to-back games, beating St. Peter's on Saturday, and the beating Hofstra this Sunday, 8-4. They're starting to find themselves, I think, as a team, and they're led offensively by Michael Edelman, who's batting 308 and 39 at bats, 12 hits, including 4 doubles and a triple, 10 RBIs as well. So, this team is just starting to find themselves, and I don't think they're rolling out their best, but they got a guy in Josh Gaynor who has 5 appearances, 10 innings pitched, and ERA of .87, only giving up 5 hits, 11 strikeouts.
Well, you know what? Small statistical sample.
That's true.
I love this old story about this is, again, many, many years ago, back when Vermont still had a baseball program. First of all, Vermont, their last year was 2009 in baseball before they dropped their program. I still don't know why they did, because it was a good program. So good that they hosted the American East Tournament in 2006. And we went up there to Centennial Field, and that's a really old ballpark. It's older than Fenway.
Well, it is in the name.
Yeah. And so, and it's a minor league park in the summertime. So, we were going in the final day, and again, had to win twice in order to advance. And Sink brings out Nick Abel, I believe his name was. And he also had a nice minor league career. He was with the Binghamton Mets for a little while. I think he got as high as AA. But anyway, Abel had 10 appearances in that season up until the American East Tournament, and with an ERA of zippo, nothing.
Wow.
Goes in and gets rocked.
Oof.
Absolutely rocked. We lose the game, we're done. And he was rather upset by it. He was actually, near, I think he was in tears after getting on the bus. And I'm like, nah, I'm not going to say it. I better not say it. Somebody will punch me if I say it. I was about to say, there's no crying in baseball. No. We did not watch A League of Their Own on the way. But one thing that on long bus trips the coaches like to do is they like to put on movies. And the movie we watched was Bull Durham, believe it or not.
Yep.
Yeah. But now that was a trip that we took a bus up to Burlington. By the way, Burlington in May is beautiful. But in any case, that we did take a bus up there, and then of course, Omaha you fly, but still, the team was trying to break through at that point. They made it to the NCAA in 2008. We went to Arizona State that year, and then it had an early exit in the tournament in 2009. Where we played up at Binghamton at a high school field because Binghamton's was being redone. And then 2010, we hosted and then wound up going up down to Coastal Carolina, where we played Myrtle Beach. Another great place to play baseball. Myrtle Beach Pelicans is the minor league team. It was a minor league park. They used Coastal Carolina's park. And we got, we beat NC State to advance out of the loser bracket, lost to Coastal Carolina in the opener, and then got mauled by Coastal Carolina in the third game because we flat out ran out of pitching.
Yep, that'll do it.
Yeah, so we got another day in Myrtle Beach, and that was it. But then 2011 comes around, and again, this was a lot of the guys who were on the 2012 team were on the 2010 team. And I remember getting on the bus, and Matt Sink says, I believe this team is capable of getting to a super regional. I remember those words because then later on, 2011, early exit because Tropiano was the only one who pitched. Then 2012 happens. And the rest is history.
I was saying, that's kind of the level Stony Brook's been chasing, ever since.
Well, and hey, I knew then, I was talking to people, enjoy it while you can, right? Because if you look year on year among the 8 participants in the College World Series, you rarely see teams make it 2 years in a row, number one. And if they do it for a 2 or 3 year window where they have good core players, because a lot of them, they get, like Stony Brook, they get decimated the following year because they all got drafted. Yeah. So,
well, don't worry about that this year.
Yeah. I remember the draft going on after winning a game. I think it was the night we advanced out of Coral Gables, out of the regional to the super regional, and I was still on the air doing post game. Jeff Bernstein was in the studio, and we heard a loud cheer. That was because Travis Jankowski had just gotten drafted in the first round.
Yeah, and it's funny too in that sense, just because just talking about that level of competition. Stony Brook's going to get something in that later this week as well. Obviously, play LAU Tuesday, playing Fordham on Wednesday, and then Friday through Sunday facing number 24 ranked Old Dominion. So besides obviously playing a heavy schedule this week, they're going to have that level of competition, in Old Dominion, and going to see where they measure against one of the best teams in the nation. And
this fits in with Sank's strategy, okay? Put a couple of tough teams in there, put a couple of not quite so tough teams in there, but
they're going to shake Cobblers this week because they're going to have to if they're going to want to make a statement. They got 5 games this week.
It's kind of a shame that Old Dominion is no longer in the CAA. No, Old Dominion. Wait a minute, hold on.
Right, they're in Conference USA.
They're in Conference USA. I believe they used to be in the CAA at one point.
Years ago.
Okay. Yep, 2012 they left the CAA and went to Conference USA. They were. Yeah, but that was, again, 10 years ago. And, yeah, they weren't allowed to compete in the CAA tournament. But this happened in May of 2012, which means after the programs were done. So they knew going into the following year they weren't going to be able to get in any tournaments. The bomb wasn't dropped on them right in the middle of basketball season.
All right.
11 o'clock, by the way, here at WUSB Stony Brook. Matt Mankiewich, Ken Fermin with the sports section, and you can join us in the conversation. Please do. 631-632-9872, 631-632-WUSB. And, well, we will shift gears a little bit from baseball to softball now. Mm-hmm. And softball, more so than previous years, they have had they've just been doing nothing but tournaments leading up to their America East schedule. So, taking a look, they made it to the finale against San Diego State.
Yep. And I'll say doing pretty good in them for the most part.
But got held down to 3 hits.
Yeah.
And got shut out 8-0.
Yeah, the gas ran out there at the end. That was, I think, everyone's worst performance, at least of the week, came in that Sunday game against San Diego State, which is a great team. They're again a really great team, as I said. It's their tournament after all, so it makes sense that they defend their turf, they go out and win it. But outside of that, this team I thought played great this week. Four games. Before that, they went 3-1, and the one loss was against Yale, who's another really tough team, and it was a 1-run loss. But I thought a lot of players stepped up more so this week than last week. Because remember last week, Corian Badger was really good. I think she was the star of the team for sure. But Dawn Baldrug did great in the pitcher circle. On Friday against Utah State, she shut out Utah State, held them to just 3 hits and struck out 15.
Yeah, but got beat up pretty good against San Diego State. So came out of it 1-1. Well, no, how many games did she pitch? Did she just those 2?
3. No, I think 3.
Okay.
Yeah, because she also pitched in Saturday's contest as well.
Okay, so she pitched the loss to Yale or the win against Long Beach State?
Win against Long Beach State.
Okay, there
again.
That went 8 innings. That was and Stony Brook scored 3 runs in the top of the 8th, and Long Beach State scored 1 in the bottom half, but Seawolves held on. Yeah,
and that was, again, important for their offense. Just in terms of fighting a tough game like that and coming out on top. Because Stony Brook was, I believe they were losing that game for most of it, and then Lindsey Osmer was able to tie first with an RBI single to center to drive home Kyra McFarland. And then afterwards in extras, it was Stony Brook plating 3 runs with Nicole McCarville stepping up and hitting a 2-run single to left. But also that San Diego, that game against San Diego, not San Diego State, the offense was just on a roll. They won 11-1. It's one of their best victories of the season so far. So it's going to be key for Stony Brook for their success is keeping that explosiveness on offense, having players outside of Corian Badger, seeing players like McFarland and McCarville, really step up. And Shelby Denman, who, is a pitcher, but also got her first collegiate home run in Saturday's game.
So, coming up next, they're going to do it again. This time in South Florida, where they have UMass, Ohio State, South Florida, and Army down in Tampa. And same place, by the way, the Seawolves men had been only a couple of weeks ago. And they come back up north for a doubleheader against Fordham, but we still don't see them at home because then they'll do another weekend at the Rutgers tournament. So they inch further north gradually as the weather supposedly gets better. So this one will take place in Piscataway, where you got Fairfield, Drexel, St. Peter's, and Holy Cross. Then they'll go to Hempstead and play Hofstra. Then they'll play Fairfield for a doubleheader at Fairfield. Then they'll go to St. John's, and we don't see them at Stony Brook until March 31st.
Crazy.
And Sacred Heart, and that's a non-conference game. And then the America East kicks in April. That's Thursday, March 31st, and then Saturday and Sunday, April 2nd and 3rd. They get the doubleheader and then a single game against Maine, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, and again, it's another tournament, I think, for me. When we were talking about last year, but it's a tournament where Stony Brook should make some noise and should do pretty good, I think. With USF is ranked 24th nationally, so that's going to be a big game to pay attention to, because if they win, it definitely makes some noise for a team that was ranked in the top 100 of the softball rankings prior to the season starting.
I think the other important thing here is, again, these tournaments, again, this wasn't obviously, that nobody anticipated what was happening with the conference, but it definitely gives you an opportunity to face tough teams and doing exactly what Matt Sink does with the baseball and get you set up for the America East schedule, but also improves your standing as far as the NCAA is concerned, because let's say if nothing had happened and we did play for the automatic qualifier, we'd get a better seeding.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And a team as well where, as I said, they needed new pieces to step up. And so far, they've been getting that, as I said, with kind of the players who's taken over for those that graduated over the offseason, rather. So it's an interesting dynamic for the softball team. But they're on a roll so far, and they could definitely keep it up in this USF tournament.
So I just want to see what the other teams in the conference are up to. And just looking at the standings right now, again, nobody's played each other yet, but Stony Brook actually has the best record overall in the conference. UMass Lowell right behind; they're at 7-3. UMass Lowell at 9-5. UMBC at 7-4. And surprisingly enough, Hartford, as we said, the program that's been written off for dead, is at 4-4, and they've won 3 in a row. But Maine, they're at 1-8. They've lost 6 in a row. I just want to see who they played, though. Excuse me. They've played. Well, they had 2 in North Dakota State, George Washington, Charleston Southern, Liberty got shut out by them. Appalachian State got shut out again. Mercy rule invoked. So, but,
those are top 50 teams, though, so obviously it's to be expected.
Yeah.
And Liberty's receiving votes as well on top of that.
And then they got Wisconsin, Dixie State, New Mexico. Dixie State, again, I believe that's part of a tournament. Southern Utah, Brigham Young, Utah Valley. So they don't mess around either as far as their schedule is concerned. And we get them, as we said, we open up the conference schedule with them on the first weekend of April, the 2nd and 3rd.